Hello, my name is Llama the Llama. Do you like two-player games that are deep, strategic, and come with an adorable finger puppet? Well then, boy, do I have the deal for you!
Well, thank you, Llama the Llama, and welcome to Pachakuna. Alright, let's be honest. A ton of games say that they're designed for like 1 to 4 or 5 players, but they're very clearly designed for 3. And playing them at 1 or 2 just isn't as satisfying. There are mechanics that are missing or are just underwhelming when you haven't got that extra party to the game. Sometimes saying a game can be played with 2 players is like saying that a car can be driven with 3 wheels. You can, but it's clearly not designed for it. You can even still have fun. I love playing Scythe at 2-player, but a lot of the time you're missing something, right? Which of course brings me to my problem. The games that I am immediately drawn towards often are designed for that many players, but I actually mostly play with my fiance? I was gonna say partner and then fiance. My fiance, and I have to say that legally, it's in my wedding contract because otherwise my fiance will kill me. I mostly play with her. So over the last while, I have been trying to build out my 2-player gaming library, which is why I was super excited to learn that Pachakuna is not only best played at 2 players, but is designed for 2 players only. And trust me, your life will improve too if you expand your 2-player gaming. I'm sounding way too much like a crypto salesman at the moment. It's all about the hustle, grind. In Pachakuna, you have a little llama who has to traverse the Andes mountains and valleys from village to village, buying and selling dye. And you need to see how cute these little llama pieces are because they carry dye on their backs like this. Isn't that amazing? It is just such a visual perk that makes this game so much more inviting. And the more you do this, the bigger your llama dye business grows until eventually you've collected all of these beautifully colored dye little blocks and you win the game. But here's the catch. You know those puzzles where you've got a bunch of pipes and you've got to get water from one point to another. And to do that, you've got to turn the pipes around to create the right pathway. Well, Pachakuna is that on steroids, because you and your opponent are competing to create different pathways. And in this case, the pipes are the pathways across the mountains from village to village, and the pipes that you rotate are these little tiles, which you can pick up and rotate around on your turn to alter the path. And here's the kicker. Take a look at this tile. You'll see it's half divided into a mountain and half divided into a valley. One player can only go on the valleys, and the other player can only go on the mountains. So creating a path for you is very exactly not creating path for your opponent. Now initially I was skeptical too. Again, sounding like a crypto salesman, I was skeptical too, but then I gave it a try. Okay, it's a puzzle. You've got to figure out, say, the most efficient pathway from this village over here to this village over here to sell your dye. But I was thinking, that can't be that hard, especially because all you really do on any given turn is you pick up a tile, you rotate it, and then you move your llamas as far as you can go. Surely it's not that hard to figure out what's the most efficient pathway, and once you've got kind of a network across the map, that's the strategic part of the game done. Well, I was not only surprised, but I was pretty damn well astounded, because Pachakuna here is one of those beautiful games that have really simple mechanics. The rulebook is just a few pages long, but there is immense depth to every choice you get to make. And that is the balance you want with a simple game. Some games try for that, simple but deep mechanics, but just don't quite make it to the point that you're not really doing much thinking and it becomes even automatic, and boring. But every single turn, I was kind of struggling to figure out the exact right move with my 2 little choices that I get to make. As you trade for more of these beautiful little blocks, do I save up to get a 2nd or 3rd llama, or do I spend it on a one-time bonus of moving an additional tile? And when I do that, do I make my own paths better, or do I screw over my opponent? And when you can figure out a move that does both of those at the same time, it is just a turning point in the game. It's a real kicker, and because the board is changing so much, with the villagers switching up what they want to trade for, it never feels like you're doing quite the same puzzle over and over. You're always having to adjust. But how brutal, how cutthroat is Pachakuna? Well, my partner, fiance, legally required, loves competitive games. But she doesn't like it if I try to cut her down to undercut her at any given time. She just prefers that we leave each other alone. It's like, if you've played Azul, you'll know that sometimes it's a lot better to, instead of trying to get more points for yourself, you deprive your opponent of points. And she does not like that very much. Pachakuna is a really good balance. See, picking up and rotating tiles is really expensive. So it's rare that it's more beneficial to screw over your opponent than to just help you build out your network of pathways. There are moments that it comes up that it becomes more beneficial, but it disincentivizes doing that too much. It rewards a little aggression, but punishes too much, especially because you're so used to looking at the board as either mountains or as valleys, You're not used to looking at it the way your partner is, and so it's harder to see where is the best place to screw them over. 2 more things, one of which is great, and one of which is less great, okay? Number 1, the visuals. Wow, this game is pretty. The llamas, the board, the color design, it's simple and evocative. You know exactly what you're looking at. It is a very pretty game, and a lot of people really appreciate that. I want to show you this bag, by the way. You draw like what villagers want to trade for out of here, and basically it was handmade in Bolivia, and it's brightly colored, it feels nice on the hand. I think one of the things that really stands out about this game is that it has a real sense of authenticity, cultural authenticity in its design that I cannot commend enough. It really does feel like the culture that they're representing here is kind of coming out, coming alive, and being celebrated, which I think is great. And as a side note, how many games are coming out that weigh like 300 kgs? This one is compact, it's light, and it's packed full of stuff. I really love the tight design, and I'm glad that they didn't go super over the top. It fits nicely, it's snug, and I couldn't use it for deadlifting at the gym. The one downside that did stand out to me and the people that I was playing with was, unfortunately, the components themselves. I want to be clear, it may have just been this specific box, it may have been an anomaly, I don't know, but if you look closely, you'll see that all of these little hexes don't actually fit inside the frame. Instead, you've got them just like lurching up a little bit, kind of overlapping at each other, and if you press them all in to force them to fit, then they'll pop up somewhere else. They just don't quite fit. And when I was playing with other people, what we ended up doing was, we would have to open up the frame to give it a little bit more room to breathe so that they can all sit flat. Which, it doesn't ruin the game or anything like that, but it's a quality of life thing that I really expect to get kind of fixed with this sort of game. Also, the game is designed to have these little flags which tell you what each of the villages are trying to trade for, and they're designed to stand up in these little holes around the rim, but to be honest, half the time it doesn't work, it doesn't stand up. And when I was playing, my friends and I all agreed that they were just more visually recognizable to just lay them down around the rim in the first place. So yeah, that didn't quite work for me. But again, it's not something that cripples the enjoyment of the game. I still had immense fun. Lastly, a huge mechanic in the game is rotating tiles, but this can be a little bit finicky, especially given the hexes don't all entirely fit together and they can push each other out of the way. Just again, not a great kind of quality of life thing in this game. I don't think the game is designed for you to be able to randomly lay out these hexes, which means that every single game you have to lay out them in the right pattern each time, which doesn't take too long. You know, I've set up games which take me a lot longer than Pachakuna ever would. But there are two layouts that you can start with, and they're mapped out on this giant thing here. A and B. And here's the thing, right? You've got to rotate something. But because the hexes are a little bit finicky to begin with, I think it would have been better if we just had a hexagonal board and then you put these little mountain pieces on the top. And the board was double-sided, so you had either A or B on either side. I don't quite know why they didn't do that, why they needed to have all the individual little hexes, because of course the mountain pieces are more pliable and it wouldn't require you to fit the hex in perfectly with all the other hexes surrounded and nearly jostle the game when you do so. And again, this doesn't destroy the enjoyment of the game, but it was something that I wanted to bring up. I've played a fair amount of Pachakuna, and I'm really happy to say that contrary to my expectations, it does have a lot of replayability, and I am still trying to plumb the depths of its strategy, right? Which is great. The game isn't too long, it won't keep you 3 hours, it won't even keep you 1 hour, and I think it is a great addition to any couples board gaming library. A lot of Kickstarter games are huge in scale, and they try to be really ambitious. They try to do way too much, and what tends to happen is they have a bunch of really great ideas, but some of the mechanics, you know, fall a bit short, and the game can end up being often quite mediocre. Pachakuna is not that at all. It was a tightly designed, tightly conceived, clear concept for what they were trying to do, and I think they achieved, especially mechanically, everything that they were trying to do. It's the sort of game that I want to see on Kickstarter more, and I'm glad to have received this, and I'm looking forward to playing more. It's just really satisfying to build out, you know, your network of across the villages, because at the start it's so painfully slow to get anything done, but then slowly, you know, hex by hex, you build out this beautiful network that makes traveling across the Andes Mountains just so much easier, and you go, whoa, look how quick that is. Anyways, if this sounds like the game for you, then do go check it out. I think these guys have created something really cool. Anyways, stay nerdy, and I'll see you in the future.